country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't trying to sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is, how I tell it. Ain't a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't trying to sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is, how I tell it.
Okay, firstly, I gotta address apologetics. It doesn't make sense, I'm not sorry, I don't get it. The fact that he was crucified means that we're all indebted. We should demand to have a culture that doesn't soon forget it. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess it. Christ is king, listen up, get the message. The time is short, the deception is impressive. The church itself is corrupted and wretched. They preach about grace, no righteousness expected. God gaze at the pulpit because the sin is accepted. The devil calls, they don't even try to reject it. They're employed by Satan, they are tax exempted.
Ain't a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't trying to sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is, how I tell it. Ain't a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't trying to sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is, how I tell
It's
it.
neither land of the free, nor is it home of the brave. When you got people here killing babies every day, and all the Christians here think that they can get away if they throw a couple bucks into the bucket on Sunday. But I don't think that that's the way it works. He said to seek the kingdom and its righteousness first. But you wanna grab a handbag, a Rolex, and what's worse, you think that you deserve it, but the bubble's about to burst. It's time to rise, sell the cloak for a weapon. Got the sword in my left, in the right, Smith & Wesson. And I don't think it's wise for you to try to be testing. If you become a Goliath, then I'ma teach you a lesson. It's apostasy, and what the cost will be is the people in the church and state accosting me. But I'm speaking honestly, you are not the boss of me, because I only give allegiance to the one true king. And I don't care if we burn down this whole country, cause it's wretched and rusty and rotten, stupid and ugly. And I got no love for churches and preachers set up above me, cause their democracy's about to be replaced with monarchy.
Ain't a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't trying to sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is, how I tell it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Main Character Podcast, level 69, made possible by the Cult of Con. That's you guys. I'm Con Man, and thank you for being here. We are back. Wednesday, Hump Day, Trash Day. You already know what it is. What's up, everybody? Throw those honks in the chat, and we will kick it off just like we always do. Great to have you guys here again for another Wednesday. Like I said, Hump Day, Trash Day. I'm doing a pretty good job of not forgetting. Okay, the music's just going off, whatever. Great to see you guys. Welcome back, of course, to the Main Character Podcast, level 69. This is getting kind of crazy. I can't even believe we have this many episodes of this show. It just seems like it's just been like a couple of weeks since I started doing this, but somehow we've managed to have something to talk about 69 times. Well, here we are, back again and ready to rock. And of course, we'll go ahead and say hi to everybody in chat first things first. I see a lot of honks. I see a lot of geese. I see unicorns. I see everything. Let's go. All right, I'm going to try to roll back and try to get you guys in order, but I know there's a lot of you here, so we'll do what we can. Okay, there's me. So we'll start here. Obviously, I see Wendy. Good to see you, Wendy. Wendy is the captain of the Big Blimp and Party Blimp. Yeah. And, of course, obviously, we have Doctor Who I see as well down here. But before we get there, we've got Bruce referencing Doctor Who about selling a motorcycle. Right on. I hope you made a profit, my friend. We've also got Half Truths. Good to see you, brother. Welcome in, my man. And, of course, we also have Doctor Who, another one of our moderators here. It looks like he just relocated to the other side of the world. The toilets apparently flush the other direction down there and everything. And the world is upside down, too. I would try, but I cannot for the life of me get an Australian accent. I don't even want to give that clip to the internet. Con Man attempts to do an Australian accent. No thanks. We'll pass on that one. We've got ex-heliocentric. Honk honk, burn it all. Yeah, that's kind of the theme. I went with the golden illumination tonight so that we could basically have our Rome burning in the background. It's all fitting. It's all part of the plan. Right on. All right, we got Rusty Shackelford. Welcome in, my friend. He says, the 1560 Geneva mentions that Mark died in the 8th reign of Nero. The 8th reign? Like, what is that supposed to mean? He's an 800-year-old Nephilitic vampire? What are we talking about here? We've got Linda Smedley. Welcome in, Linda. It's good to have you. I think we're getting here. We got Mama Con. Let's go. I'll throw a honk honk for that one here if I can. My soundboard is. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, right on. Good to see you, Mama Con. Welcome in. All right, where are we at? We got Amelia Petrella. Welcome, Amelia. Great to have you here. We also have Hawkma, my good friend. Hawkma. It's always good to have you as well, Hawkma. We've also got Chris T. Look at all those geese and sirens. It's like everybody knows the party bus is everywhere. Well, we were hanging out earlier. Paul was doing a chat earlier this evening. It was a good chat, good opportunity to hang out with you guys. You know, I did what I could to be there, but I also had to get ready for the show. What can I say? I'm a busy guy. All right, where are we at? We got Samantha Parker, the other half of Half Truths. Good to see you, Sammy. Welcome in. We've got Waiting for the King of Kings. My 12-year-old wants to learn this rap. Oh, the intro song, the Exceeder song. We're overdue for a new song. Well, we're overdue for a lot of things. I guess I should make the point to say that I've not been being lazy. I'm actually hard at work. There's a lot of stuff that's like in the works right now, including, actually, I might as well take a moment. I'll announce it in a second. Let's get through saying hi to everybody. Let's get everybody's seats settled, get everybody buckled up, because things are about to get crazy around here, all right? We have got, let's see, I got you, Chris. We got Cage Fighter. Welcome in, Cage Fighter. Always good to see you. I know. There we go. Let's go. All right, where are we at? We got, let's see. Just want to make sure we get everybody right here at the start before we tear out of here and get down to, obviously, the first stop on the station, which you guys already know. And then I will make the big intercom announcement as we're going down the track here. We got Missy DeVille. Welcome in. DeVille. I was just looking at that Cruella DeVille car the other day. That thing is crazy. It's a real car. Apparently, they used to have those long hood, incredibly high displacement V8s. I could do it. I could justify that. Imagine you like daily drive something like that to work. Like you pull up to work with like a giant W16 engine or whatever. It's like, what is that? It's the most inefficient thing possible. It gets like 4 mpg. Good to see you, Missy. We also got Steve, Walking Steve. I do like the intro song / music. I'm glad. That means that the Kool-Aid is sinking in. Next thing you know, we'll all be prepared for the incoming mothership. All right, right on. Well, I see Mad Pax. Good to see you, brother. Welcome in. Always good to have you. Waiting for the King of Kings. Are we not honking? Oh, we're honking. I know I'm a little behind on chat. But I just want to get caught up with you guys. We're definitely honking tonight, guys. And of course, Wednesday, hump day. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope that if you are on that Monday through Friday weekly grind, that you're feeling a little bit relaxed tonight. Take a load off with me. We'll hang out. I got a couple things to talk about. But for the first time in a couple of weeks, we're actually going to take it easy tonight. I hope. I was joking earlier. I was like, I promise I'm calm. I'm calm, I swear. Oh, that's so funny. You guys are great. We got Pepe Silvio. Welcome in, my friend. Good to see ya. And the chat did that thing that I don't like it when it does, but it did it anyway. It tries to jump to catch up. I was almost there. Almost. I see Daddy Skip. Welcome in, my friend. It's good to have you. We've also got Adrienne Petrakovitz. Made it in right before the bell. Good to see you, Adrienne. I can't help but put a Jewish accent on everything I do. Petrakovitz. That's almost my vampire. That's the Count of Khan. We got Mikasi. Welcome in. We also... Oh, no, that's everybody. Let's go. All right, everybody, buckle your seatbelts. It's about to get crazy. All right, before we get too far in, let me just take a moment to thank all of our wonderful supporters over on patreon.com/thecultofcon. My usual spiel is, My usual spiel is that we are stopping here at our first stop, destination Shilltown, population me, and apparently you, because this group of wonderful people are responsible for fueling this party bus and keeping it going. So thank you guys so much for supporting us. I know we break the rules and can't get monetized. Maybe we'll see if CDM Channel can be monetized. We'll make it evergreen content. We'll see. But again, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. If you're at all interested in being a supporter on Patreon, you can find us over there on patreon.com/thecultofcon. And I believe Wendy just threw the link in the live chat. So consider becoming a supporter. Even if you just want to do it for like a month, it'd be awesome to have you. And we'll put your name up on the list. You'll be forever remembered as being responsible for that week or that month that you were a supporter. So thank you guys so much for being here and for helping to make this possible. And with all that being said, let's get back on track because we do have a couple of things to do. Once more, we'll just jam that horn. For all you new folks getting in here, welcome to level 69 of the Main Character Podcast. We are moving up in the world, and today I want to take an opportunity to just announce to you guys that I'm doing something that I haven't done in a long time. I'm making a real video, like an actual video. When I first started doing the channel, I had these like narrative driven like transcript videos where I was trying to, I was trying to get a point across, and I wrote down my thoughts and I tried to make it sound good, and then I recorded myself saying it and then I like put visuals on it. There were videos like that, but I was still so, I don't know how you would put it, misguided. My focus was not where it is today. And so as I've developed this more honed in perspective on what's really important in the world, I've decided and I've also been inspired to produce some content aside from the fun stuff that's coming. But I'm building something that I think is actually, I'm going to use the word groundbreaking to describe it. And I know there's a joke in there, and if you know, you know. But anyway, it really truly is a groundbreaking thing, and I have been so taxed putting it together that I've actually been kind of like wiped out and didn't have much to put together tonight. And I was trying to get back to the roots here in the sense that Main Character Show's always just been about us getting a chance to hang out together, talk about whatever's going on, And I've gotten into a habit of kind of like just ranting, like vein bulging. And I know you guys love the vein bulge. There's always time for that. But I wanted to have an opportunity to actually just chill with you guys tonight, take it easy, and go over some stuff that's not too serious. I know I said, I'm only going to talk about Kingdom, no more conspiracies, but there's conspiracies afoot. There's stuff I've got to put my 2 cents in on. So we'll talk about it a little bit. But in addition to that, I just wanted to take a point to say that I've just been working really hard on this really cool, super controversial project. I think it is, aside from the CDM project, the documentary, the channel, and everything going on with Christian Dominion movement, I think this is in a parallel. It's not technically a part of CDM, but I think it's so huge. I mean, we've been doing research to kind of fill in the gaps and put everything together as we work forward on this project. And it's been like really eye-opening for me even to take something that we discovered and to dig deeper and to really grind out the details on this and learn this stuff. And I just think it's the next big step forward for like everyone in terms of like eschatology and everything. So it's very big. I wish I could tell you more. I would love to just be like, guys, you got to see this, because I want to show you so bad what we've discovered. But the only way to do that is to prepare it appropriately and properly and actually have something to give you guys that you can appreciate, that you can share with other people, because I think it really is a compelling piece of information, and it's going to be a pretty awesome piece. I would argue it's probably going to be the best thing I've ever put together. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. There will be more announcements about that as we draw closer to the end of the year and the release of that. So I will keep you guys posted on the progress. We're doing really well. I've been working very hard. And we'll be getting back to that soon. But that's the reason why there's no like really amazing message tonight, is because the message is being cooked for an amazing like Thanksgiving feast, if you want to think about it like that. Anyway, with all that being said, guys, let me go ahead and check. I've got a small list of things that are important, and then we'll mostly be off to the races. Let's see here. We've got a few more folks who just showed up. I did see Jasper Jaguar, welcome, man. We also got Aaron, Eyes for Truth. I think he was here earlier, but it's good to have you, my friend. Good to have you for sure. And I think we're all caught up on the chat at this moment. Now you got my brain turning. Oh, I'm excited, guys. It's really, I can't think of anything the same. It was kind of like when we first started learning about Little Season stuff and we started digging in and seeing more and more evidence to support that the timeline was deceived, and we already knew the government couldn't be trusted and the like, but to be able to go to the next level with it and really start to analyze the data and be like, wow, there really is proof of Christ's return in the first century and all that stuff was really impactful for me. A big portion of my growth in the last year and a half or a couple of years in terms of like my worldview and everything. It was huge to come to these realizations, and I've learned so much over the course of this time, and I think that there's so much more to unpack and discuss, and I'm really excited to share with you guys my thoughts, my discoveries, and everything. It's very intense. I'm very excited. I've been totally taken like by storm. You know, we've been working on other projects in the background, like the CDM and the documentary for that, and then also like the development of the new merch designs. There's so many things coming together behind the scenes, but it's like obviously hard to share all that, especially when it's stuff that's like mysterious. Like, ooh, I can't tell you even though I want to. But I'm very excited for this piece, and as soon as this comes, it's kind of the floodgates are behind it. There's a bunch of other stuff that's waiting in the wings that's going to all kind of start flowing out here all at once. So I'm excited for that and the future of that, which is why it's so nice to just have a night like tonight. We can just kick back and talk about stuff. There's a few things that are going on in the world that are like, I don't even know how much I want to get into it, but I do want to talk a little bit about it. But before we get all the way into the weeds here, let's take a moment to look over at tonight's thumbnail. Tonight is NERO FIDDLES while Rome burns. And it's actually a funny story how all this happened. It's very simple. I've edited my head onto this guy's body. And as you can see in the background, things are scorched, but he is just chillaxing with his babes and having a good time. So it invokes a kind of spirit. Where are the grapes is a great question, Missy. There were grapes. But the problem with the grapes was the girl in the front here. Oh, we'll go back over there. The girl in the front had 3 arms. She had 2 arms on her lap and 1 arm was like holding up the grapes. So we were like, that's not quite what we were hoping for. S. Andrews says 2:15 a.m. UK, can't sleep, cool beans. Thanks, Connor. Been enjoying the cult the last months. Hey, good to have you, my friend. And I don't know why you're not sleeping, but I'm glad that you're enjoying the time with us. You know, we've got Kool-Aid sometimes keeps you up at night a little bit. But yeah, luckily tonight it's mellow, so you don't need to give us too much energy. You'll be able to probably fall asleep before we get to anything too crazy. It's usually the second hour where I start yelling. Just have your volume done. You might get woken up to some screaming. But anyway, this is absolutely hilarious. So we were working on this thumbnail, and we're like, what are we going to call this? Because we were basically trying to illustrate a guy who's basically taking it easy, not paying attention to the pressing things that are going on in the outside world. And I felt like this was good because it kind of is a continuation of something we've talked about a lot, which is my interpretation that the church is really misguided and not paying attention. And I think this is kind of like a universal theme. Like we find a lot of times we look to our leaders in government, in the church, professional sports, influencers. There's so many times people have been given special thrones in the world where people look to them for guidance, wisdom, or leadership, and they choose to instead basically lay around and do nothing. So we were trying to create that kind of a thumbnail, and that's where we got the art. And he superimposed a few things on top, like my head and some text and whatnot. But basically, let me share with you guys the backstory here. We were looking for a name for the episode, so we were like, we should ask AI what the episode should be called, because we're just like playing around with it. We're like, ask the robot what it thinks. Ask the demon. And so we're looking at it, and we've got this analysis. It says, and this is before we were calling it or had anything to do with Nero, but it's like, this image appears to be an artistic depiction of the Roman Emperor Nero playing his lyre, or perhaps just observing, while Rome burns in the background. A famous, though likely apocryphal, historical anecdote often associated with the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD. It is often summarized by the phrase, Nero fiddles while Rome burns. While the man in the image isn't holding a lyre, his casual, attended posture contrasted with the massive fire outside the window strongly evokes this special historical episode and popular legend of Nero's detachment during the disaster. All right. It gave us a few suggestions for the episode. Based on the content and historical reference, here are a few names. Nero's Folly, The Great Fire of Rome, or The Burning of Rome, Indifference to Disaster, or The Emperor and the Fire. So this is very much it just, to me, was funny because we didn't have any idea what this Nero and Nero fiddles while Rome burns kind of idea. It just was not something that was like fresh in my mind. So we started looking into it too, because we were like, what does this even mean? And it is funny too, right? Because we weren't planning this, but then we're like, wow, the relevance is crazy, right? Nero, 64 AD or whatever. It's like as Rome is burning right around the time that the tribulation occurs, the return of Christ, the burning, the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. Like, all that happened between 2020 and now. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine it's 2020, Rome's on fire. Right now, it's like 70 AD. You know what I mean? Within a 5-year time span, like since COVID, I'm just gonna say it. Like within 5 years, the whole world drastically changed. Tribulation, Rome destroyed, Jerusalem temple destroyed, Jesus returns to earth. Catastrophic. All right, let's see. So we wanted to learn. Okay, hold on. I'm on my. Okay, here we go. I wanted to learn a little bit more about it, right? I don't know what. Okay, here we go. This is it. So. We were like, what is that? What is Nero fiddled while Rome burned? You know what I mean? Because we literally didn't even know what we were talking about when we were looking at this. We just wanted it to look like a guy wasting his time not doing his job, but it's apparently a thing. So the expression Nero fiddled while Rome burned is a metaphorical saying that gained its name from a rumor that Emperor Nero played a musical instrument while the Great Fire of Rome raged in 64 AD. CE is not happening in my book. The phrase has a double meaning. It describes an act of frivolous entertainment during a crisis and a failure of leadership and ineffectual response. Although the fiddle was not yet invented, historical accounts mention he sang and played the lyre or kithara. The phrase became a powerful symbol of Nero's supposed cruelty and incompetence. The original rumor, according to the Roman historian Tacitus, rumors circulated that Nero sang and played a musical instrument, a lyre or kithara, not a fiddle, while watching the fire, reportedly comparing the destruction to the destruction of Troy. Again, so this is described as a, I guess you could say like anecdotal or a perhaps fictional event. But drawing it from the history of Tacitus is a big deal because we look at Tacitus and Josephus as two of like the main historians who account for the first century disaster, the tribulation, the return of Christ, angels in the sky. Crazy stuff, man. And apparently one of the things that was recorded by Tacitus was that Nero just didn't seem to really care that much as it was happening. Of course, we know from history that Nero is regarded as the first pope, and by many people's account, the Antichrist described in the Bible. Now, I know there's a lot of debate about the versus the spirit of Antichrist, and I think I would lean more towards the spirit of which, because the Bible clearly says there'll be many Antichrists, so I'm not certain that Nero is the Antichrist or that there even is a the, but he certainly does, according to the history, invoke that kind of that feeling, like he's the type of guy that fits the description. Again, not really what the point of the argument is. Just interesting enough that all of this is happening at the time in history that we relate to the return of Christ according to the, I guess you could say, like the little season eschatology, the last season eschatology, right? Because some versions of eschatological view consider the first century the time in which Jesus did, in fact, return as he said he would. So very interesting. But again, it speaks to what we were saying in the first place, this idea of leadership, people in positions of authority, kicking back and taking it easy while there's legitimate problems in the world and people are not, paying attention to it or taking it very seriously, right? And that was kind of the joke, was tonight I'm working on other things during the week, and tonight I was just like, I don't have any energy for anything serious. What am I going to do? Put together a big like PowerPoint presentation tonight? And I was like, you know what, guys? I'm taking it easy. I know Rome's burning, but I'm chilling out tonight, my friend. That's kind of how I saw it. So tonight, Rome burns, and I am taking it easy. No. Again, there's more to unpack about it, but I do think it's funny that without any intention, it related me to Nero. like laying there on the chair. It's like, this is Nero watching Rome burn. And we were really just it was like the image prompt. Make a guy in biblical times relaxing with multiple wives as a fire rages outside. And there's a reason the multiple wives thing is a part of it. I promise we'll get to that. I forgot that was part of the notes. Everything has a meaning. There's literally a meaning behind everything that's happening here. When he says anyone in opposition to Jesus is Antichrist, it's why he told Peter, get behind me, Satan. Exactly, right? Because your actions and the path you take produces fruit. So if you're acting, right? Peter's acting in distrust of the Lord, or essentially he's not in compliance with Christ's plan for what must come to pass. And it's not a mystery, right? Jesus is like, this is what must happen. I'm sorry that you must deal with me dying. I must be destroyed for the iniquity of man. And then they're like, surely not. He says that. He's like, you deny the words of Christ to his face? It's sometimes crazy, but I get it. It's like when you are next to a guy every day, we only hear the highlights of the moments that are important. These guys like sat on benches as hours went by, riding boats and doing other things. Give me a sec. I need a water hit. Ice cold igloo. Hear that? That's the sound of refreshing water. Ice cold Rocky Mountain water. It's not, but it's bottled spring water. Oh, I got rare glasses free moment for a second. I got water on my lenses. Anyway, so respectfully rewatching some content, I've noticed more love to blind and lame, yes, paralyzed churches and churchgoers is needed to bridge the gap of dissonances that the cult of Khan and CDM challenges. Well, I think one thing that's really important, Doctor Who, is that we focus on what draws us together, which is Jesus. There's so many opportunities for us to get distracted by things that aren't important. I think that's also kind of part of the message tonight as well, is for us to consider what we really need to be responsible for and what hills are really worth dying on. And there's more to that that can be unpacked as well. And we'll talk a little more about that too in terms of, oh boy, my display turned off for a second. Are we good? Anyway. So, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll definitely talk more on that in a sec. But I don't remember where I was going. We were talking about, what was it? Wendy was talking about it. I lost my train of thought. Oh, antichrists and such. Anyway, so anybody can behave in a way that is the antithesis of Jesus. Jesus was the one who said, you're either with me or you're against me. That was his quote. And so understanding that, and also the idea that the Bible says that God sees you as if you are neither hot nor cold, you are lukewarm, I vomit you from my mouth, he says. And it's because he wants you to be about what you're about, right? Let your yes be a yes, your no be a no. If you want to be a Christian, be a Christian. If it's not that important to you, don't worry about it, because it's who you really are that matters, and there's no point in wasting your time pretending. God doesn't want you to pretend to be one thing or another. At least if you are honest with yourself about your beliefs, your iniquity, your habits, your whatever, then God has something to work with, because there's a resolute character that can be hammered away at. But if you don't even know what you're made of, you don't know what your integrity or your standards are, it's a constant moving thing, and it's like, how can you change if you don't even know what part of you is really authentically you? That's why I always say, just be your true self, and the rest of it God can work out, right? Trust God, take the risk, do the work, because everything in between is just, it's nothing, It's all dust and air. It's like, oh, do we drink beer or not? Like, everyone's arguing about whether you should have piercings, arguing about tattoos, arguing about things that are important, but they're not the issue of our time. I think it's important also that we discuss the fact that Jesus says that today's problems are sufficient for themselves, not to worry about tomorrow. So we can't change the past, we know that. And tomorrow is something that we can't really grasp, because it's a perpetual look to the future. And so Jesus tells us to worry about today. that today's problems are sufficient for themselves. So if that's the case, then we should consider the fact that today's problems don't just only refer to today as in this day, but even though that is all you have, but today's problems is in what is the contemporary issue of our time, right? What is it that we are working with, and what are we dealing with today as Christians? I think it's fair for both of those things to be true, for it to be the issues of this day cycle, day to night, morning to night. That's the issues of today. But the issues of today are also audience relevancy, right? Like, what are we worried about today? We hear about this all the time, right? Audience relevancy, where people take the Bible and they try so hard to make everything in it apply to their lives today. And there's actually a guy who touches on that here, and it's a great thing. Why don't we dive in and look at some of the stuff that we have to talk about today? The first thing that came to my mind, and since we're talking about the church and being misguided, and talking also about unity and how we should focus on, as Christians, what binds us together versus our divisions, especially in this age where Christianity is becoming a more and more troublesome worldview to have, either due to the illegitimacy of so many things that claim to represent it, as well as like the world's interpretation of what that is. And like the resounding disavowing and rejection of what's perceived to be Christianity, which is actually religion. Religion is gross, religion is awful, religion has harmed everybody. So we have a kind of a double-edged sword. We have to reestablish what Christianity is and reteach the world that was incorrect too, what the church had done for all this time. It's a lot to overcome. But anyway, in let's see, this episode of Timcast, not that I watch a lot of mainstream stuff, but look, it's out there. Everybody knows Timcast. This is not Tim. This is I can't remember his name. It's escaping me. I recognize him, but they have him dressed like Tim for the show, I guess, because he's on Tim's show. He's got a lot of understudies now. We won't play a ton of this, but just to hear some of the quotes he says at the point and get the point across so we can open up the can of worms that is this crazy situation, because I promise there's a point.
A Protestant pastor says that polygamy is biblical and that it was divinely ordained. I've been seeing this all over Twitter today. I don't know if you guys have noticed this at all. What a great story. This guy's not backing down from his claim that he can have multiple wives. Rich Tidewell, a pastor in Canton, Missouri, has sparked an online debate about the acceptance of polygamy in Christianity and whether or not it is biblically justified. He says, "I have two beautiful wives." To the expected amount of backlash, he recently made an announcement on his Instagram page that his second wife is expecting his 8th child. All right, this is kind of what I was saying earlier, even though obviously we disavowed this guy's not talking about real Christianity. There was a time when even the barbarians wanted children. He says, "I have two beautiful wives," Tidewell wrote in a long entry. "We are thrilled for what the Lord has done for our family." All right, so firstly, I don't know what his argument is, but I assume he's actually probably making some version of the argument that the left will often make when we talk about marriage and biblical morality, which is the Bible has polygamy in it. Not everything that the Bible describes is something it's recommending that you do.
I'm just going to pause it there. I skimmed it because I wanted to see what he was going to say. I thought that was absolute gold. Right? Audience relevancy, that's what we talk about all the time. Not everything that's written in the Bible is written explicitly for you to go and do. You know what I mean? So you hear about people doing all kinds of bad stuff in the Bible. It doesn't mean, well, the Bible said. Well, of course it said. It recorded everyone's bad behavior for like 1,000+ years. Yeah, there's a lot of times where you shouldn't just go, oh, every man, woman, and child. Anyway, I didn't think I could address it better than him. And I don't want to go spend all day on the actual show. We don't need to watch all of it. If you guys want to take a chance, I'll drop this video into the chat right now so you guys can grab the link. But again, this is Timcast, a very, very big channel. Of course, you guys don't need to. Timcast IRL. The video is called Andrew Wilson Slams Protestant Pastor for Saying Polygamy is Biblical. Now, I didn't watch the whole thing. I'm sure you guys want to. 10 minutes, not too super long, but I saw the drama unfolding on the internet. I heard a little bit about what was going on here, and I thought that I would weigh in, not so much on the issue of the polygamy or not, but just because this is the perfect example, right? When I'm talking about issues that are like Rome is burning and we're doing other things, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, and this is why it's such a prolific and good example. Because polygamy is a scary and high tension issue, right? In the eyes of the mainstream, generally, single monogamous marriages were considered the norm for very long in the West. And so if you tried to do anything weird like that, it was a resounding, you were weird and you were a pariah and people didn't like you. But we're living in kind of a weird kind of clown world generation where the far left actually has now a kind of an ideological terminology that they use to describe their version of any kind of like open relationships and other weird kind of, I hate to say the word weird. It is weird. It kind of defies human history of all time. But the point is, what I'm getting at is, generally a man and a woman are partnered together. They have a family. They have kids. It's a nuclear family. It's the way we've done it in the West for generations. But in the modern age, the far left now has I wouldn't even call it far left, but it is a left-wing, godless ideology because its motivation is different than this guy who's claiming it's biblical. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But far left, they call it ethical non-monogamy. That's what they call it. And again, that refers to stuff like open relationships and, that kind of stuff. And I'm not here to give a big lesson on what all that is, except for that there are people who have their I wouldn't say moral, their worldly justifications for that behavior, okay? This is a particularly difficult one because this is a man saying, he's a pastor apparently. He says that him having multiple wives, polygamy, is biblical. And of course, I totally agree with our host here. I should know his name. I should be more researched than that. I've seen him before. He's been on Timcast for years. I just don't care that much. Anyway, so non-monogamy in terms of the Bible, like you have to give it to the fact that like Solomon had a whole crap load of wives. David had multiple wives. There's even multiple stories in the Bible where people had multiple wives. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for polygamy here. I'm just saying that this is where they draw, I think, from the biblical perspective, ideas. They're like, well, God loved David and he had multiple wives. Or, Solomon had over 1,000 concubines, And these are difficult issues. This is some divisive stuff, okay? And it's because of, look, on one hand, when Christians are divided over issues like this, it shows a lack of cohesion, a lack of standards, a lack of general understanding of how the Bible really works. Because there's such a division, how could it even exist if we all knew what the truth was? So there's that. It makes us look bad. But then beyond that, you actually also have the worldly version of it that has its own moral reasons. I don't want to use moral because it's not born out of morality. It's a worldly justification. Ethical non-monogamy. Oh, well, I don't want to be tied to one. Whatever people say. They have their justifications. And that's why this is such a good example, because it is a serious issue of division. People really are upset about it. And I'm not here to make a point either way. But this kind of ties into the Rome burning thing. This is the playing of the liar, because we have for so long ignored the fire burning outside that the fire has begun to creep inside. And we live in a world now where for so long the church has been corrupted and misrepresented. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've heard stories of people in these really terrible living situations where it's like child brides or like polygamy wives, and these people are raised in these cult churches where it's like forced upon them, and so everybody is like a victim of this weird oppression religion that forces people into uncomfortable circumstances. It's trauma. There's all kinds of like sexual assault aspects to it. It's a horrible thing, and that is the testament to the world of what people think of when they think of like religious polygamy. They think of like an oppressive powerhouse figure. He has the money, he has the influence, and then there's like these women and girls who are like, they don't have institutional authority, they don't have outside sources, they're like Amish, or they live in like a small town somewhere. There's always this like desire by people to segment people away from the general population so that then they can convince them to participate or force them to participate in things that are not acceptable at all in the mainstream. And so that's been an ongoing issue forever. But when I say that we've ignored the fire, I mean because the church has gotten so out of hand and doesn't have a standard and police itself in such a way, all of these like terrible eschatologies, terrible doctrines, really bad misrepresentative ideas become normalized enough that they stand on their own. And that's like what I'm saying. The fire has made it into the house now. And so, again, this is more to the notion of what's really the priority. As difficult as it is for me to say this, is a man having multiple wives or whatever, is the multiple married partners thing an issue? Yes, absolutely. People need to get that thing figured out real quick, because we've got enough problems with people being able to get one spouse and make that work. The divorce rate's like 75% if you even got married to begin with. You know what I mean? People are arguing over whether we should have multiple spouses, and some people can't even live with one. Some people's spouses like the worst. Imagine having two of that. But, the point is that we are arguing and fighting over within the church these kind of squabbles that, unless we're talking about people being subjugated to things against their will, if some person enters into one of these circumstances and they think it's a good idea and they want to do it, I'm not saying it's right, but you can't tell people, you must do what I say, all right? You know what I mean? It starts to become, okay, what I mean is, if in this world, in this culture, this current present culture, people want to do what they're going to do, you have to let them do it, because that's what this culture is about. That's the Luciferian freedom principle. Not just free will, but people gonna do whatever they want. You can't tell them what to do, okay? In this constitutional republic, democratically elected society, you basically end up with people will decide. And so what I'm getting at is that people are going to choose for themselves how they want to live, and so you have to be the example to show them the difference. And it's difficult to be the example when people are misconstruing you as like the religion of the guy with multiple wives. So we do have a very major hurdle to overcome when it comes to establishing again what it means to be believers and followers of the way. But even more so than that is, like I said, unless we're actively doing an interdiction against people who are being assaulted or oppressed or somehow being made victims of trauma in some way, that's when you intercede. But what I'm referring to is the debate. That pastor or whatever, his two wives are apparently willingly married to him, and that's good for him, I guess. And and for his family, I hope that works out for you, But the issue comes from the fact that we are wasting our time arguing about that while Rome is burning outside. See, it's very easy for the entertaining, the fleeting, the not so important thing to seem like the important thing. Especially in the scope of the fact, but everybody thinks we're all a bunch of polygamists. You know what I mean? They all think we're Mormons out here. And of course, it's not that. No offense, Mormons. I know some sects of Mormons have polygamy. I don't think that's everyone. I'm not trying to be insensitive here. But it's like Doctor Who was saying, right? How do we unify together under what commonality we have? Especially when some of the divisions between us are so stark and deep. It's a deep valley there, especially between people who are traditionally Christian and believe that, God made Adam and he said it's not right that you should be all alone. So he made him Eve and he has a wife, one. He didn't make Eve and Deborah and Jane, you know what I'm saying? And so I that's the first time God made human relationship. One man, one woman. Okay, and there can be all this implication about, the serpent and and Lilith, and it's that's not in the Bible, okay? It's I don't know what to tell you. Yes, there's a strange esoteric and apocryphal books, but it's what is the faith about? I know history is important, but I think our faith is supposed to be about Jesus Christ and his revelation to save mankind and the restoration of the true Israel and the kingdom of God, right? So that is what we're tied together by. Look, I have so much different from anybody else in this group. I know we all come from different backgrounds, from different ages. We probably can find things we don't agree on. We get mad at each other over, maybe. But we all believe in Jesus. We all believe he's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He's alive today. He's King today. And so that is our foundation. All these other issues are important. But I say this again and again, including the polygamy, as crazy as it is. Do I want to defer on issues like this? No. I think we should be in the hot seat and decide this stuff once and for all. You know what I mean? What is the correct eschatology of the world? What is the correct way to live and treat your spouse, your community, the money, the government? We should have all this stuff figured out, but you know how you figure that out? You do that from a position of authority. You lay the cards down on the table with your brothers and you sort it out. You say, I believe in Jesus, you believe in Jesus, we both want to please Jesus. We want the King of Earth to be happy. Let's focus on what's really important, the King of Earth, his commands, and what he wants us to do, and then everything else will work out, right? So, because here we are, divided amongst each other over polygamy or over piercings or over caffeine or whatever other mumbo-jumbo people have created over the years, is whether a bad idea they've used the scripture to justify or a good idea that they can't justify. It doesn't matter. It could be one or the other. The divisions in the church, the eschatologies, the denominations, the various things that divide us were created by the enemy, and they are successful even to this day. If we're going to be a Christian future, if there's going to be a Christian future, of which there is, I feel it coming, baby. It's in the air. Kingdom energy in the air. Anyway, so if we're going to do that, we have to start somewhere, and that foundation is Jesus, author, perfecter of our faith. We got to fix eyes on him, right? That's a bottom line. My order of operations, I'm sure you guys have heard of this in math, right? Everything has to be done in order or else it doesn't work, okay? And this is a principle that everybody knows because mathematics are very, they're not abstract. They're very mechanical in the way they function. Everything is connected to something else, and when you pull it, it pulls on a bunch of other stuff. It's connected. Math is not abstract like art or like music or writing, where you can tell a funky, weird story with twists and turns. Math is math, you know, and there's something cold about its logic, but it's reliable, you know, and there's a bunch of experimental math, but that's not what I'm talking about. We build the world with engineering using the math of the world. And math has to be done in order. And if you don't do it out of order, it doesn't work. You get the wrong outcome. And so look at the world around us. We see stuff like polygamy or an oppressive church saying you can't wear piercings or a church preaching a false eschatological doctrine or whatever it is. And we see these problems pressing. And we're like, we've got stuff to work out. Problems, right? That's what they call a mathematical equation, also known as a math problem. Okay, so we have a problem. We need a solution to our problems. We have to do it in order. Okay? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. And if we break the chain of the order of operations, as it's called, math doesn't work. You get the wrong answer. You get the wrong outcome. And so look at our civilization, right? The outcome is wokeified, great replacement, super tyrant, authoritarian Zionism. The world is upside down. There's whole towns run by Islam in the United States, of all places. The birth rate's 0. Nobody's getting married except for that one guy that's got 2 wives for some reason. Things are not good. The outcome is not working, and it's because the order of operations is wrong. That guy with 2 wives, as much as it irritates me that these people have their own idea of how the world should work and they're all retarded, the reality is that at least they believe in Jesus. We are actually contending against entire religions that hate God. The Talmud says Jesus boils in shit in hell, okay? And that's not much better as far as the Quran doesn't tell you to destroy Jesus, but it doesn't treat Jesus as King of Kings. And if you're not in many forms of Islam, if you're not converted to Islam, you're an enemy of the faith. So it's there are rising beliefs in the world that are the antithesis of Christianity, antichrist in their way, whether it's atheism, agnosticism, the scientism religion of the deceived, or whether it's an archaic Eastern faith stolen from Christian manuscripts and used to manipulate the post-Ottoman populations of the Middle East for the New World Order. Whatever you want to call it, the point is that you can't have a fair debate with your Christian brother about what Christianity is when Christianity is being burned to the ground by Talmudists, Muslims, atheists, scientists, whatever. The whole world is on fire because it's being run by purple-haired homos and trannies and Muslims and Talmudists. It's I don't know how else to put it. That's not supposed to be vein bulging. I'm just saying the order of operations is important. How are we going to figure out how the church is supposed to behave when we can't even sit down with each other because your church is being closed down because of a made-up virus? You see what I'm saying? Order of operations. I think we should get to the bottom of what's going on with the polygamy thing. And I don't even have an opinion on it. Like, I'm not saying, I mean, I guess I do. I guess you could say I'm a traditional person. I'm for traditionalism. It seems like the world used to work better when we were a lot more medieval. You know, I know that sounds bad, but when things were simpler. You know, it's the delusions of the modern day, the scrying mirrors in everyone's pockets, and we've all become crazy from it. And it's turned us into something we're not. So I'm happy that I have the opportunity to address these issues, and I like to think of it like, let's remember the difference between work and having relaxation, or work and play, right? Because when we talk about what's really important, it's easy to target somebody who's doing something stupid. Like half the time I'm just running my mouth on here, and you'd look at this show and be like, well, that's the representation. All that guy does is la la la. But I actually work at my job all the time, and I do chores, and I fix my car, and I do lots of things. I work a lot. And then sometimes we relax, right? God knows people need to relax. He created the Sabbath so that man would have a day to relax. Even God rested on the seventh day. So what you do for rest might look different for someone else. Maybe I spent the whole day laying on the ground, covered in oil, under my Bama lamp, trying to get her going. And that was rest for me. And so if you looked at my life and you were like, well, all he does is waste his money and time on that car. That's only my rest, is that car. So let's not forget that we all deserve rest. And so if you want to be somebody who has like a hobby of something that you do, you do a car, or you do music, or you do whatever, that's fine. That's not the same thing as losing focus on what's important. What do you do with the bulk of your working energy? That's what we care about. Because when you're relaxing, it's like, I don't care if you sleep or if you're, hanging out with your friends, jumping on the trampoline. I don't know what you do for fun. I'm glad you're doing it. But the reality is that we're still misguided about what's actually important, especially when it comes to church stuff, right? We've got all these bad ideas owning the church, owning religion in the minds of everyone, and that's just not going to fly. It's not going to work. It can't be sustained. And so we have this fundamental problem here. And again, if we're going to unite the people together, which is necessary, the church must come together because the future is kingdom, and everyone's bad ideas are going to be squeezed out. Like the walls are going to close in, and the only thing getting through the screen, the only thing getting through the filter is going to be Christ's version of what's acceptable and appropriate. So am I wrong? Do I know? Is the Lord's will for men to have many wives? I don't know, dude, but I'm not going to die on that hill. Like, that's not for, like, if that guy and his multiple wives want to live in the land and do what they are thinking is okay, I don't have the authority to tell them otherwise. And really, they're not actively trying to tell me that I can't follow Jesus, or that I'm an infidel, or that I'm like a flurf or whatever, and I need to be silenced by the government for misinformation. That is a different problem altogether. And again, this is a perfect example, this polygamy thing, because it's so divisive and so crazy. And so what ends up happening is they have issues like this that are so powerful that they're hard to just shirk and avoid. Like, it's hard to tell your brother in Christ, okay, brothers and sisters, you guys ready to just let that polygamy guy and his multiple wives into the church? We have to let them. They're Jesus people too. They have their own idea of what it means to be Christian. You see how crazy that is? That's like when a pastor's a homo. And it's like, well, he's got to teach us what that. You don't live in active sin and try to be the teacher. Where have the standards gone? I get it if you're not perfect. I'm not expecting everybody to be perfect. But it's like the preacher's drunk on the stage. What are you doing? Like, you can't be like unrepentant and embroiled in your life of sin and the teacher at the same time. Like, I'm all for Jesus was friends with tax collectors and prostitutes. Yep, let's get him out of the gutter, but don't put him on the stage. It is just so funny how far off the church is. It's hilarious. But look, that's what it takes, right? It takes us a reflection, a moment of understanding that what the church has become today is completely a shell, for us to recognize that it's, needs to be rebuilt again. And I talk about that all the time. It's like, restoration. That's like a key word in the Christian faith. It's about what Jesus has done in the hearts of man and women, mankind, obviously. The restoration of your heart brings forth all these new fruits and virtues in your life about who you are and what you do with your time and energy, the fellowship that we get to have. Like, you meet new people, and it's different. It's not the same as like being the cool guy in the popular thing, but what we have is something special and something different. It's more wholesome. It's more authentic. And for that, I'm grateful. But yeah, it's a challenge to take on a new way of life and a new, version of reality and try to feel your way around in the dark together and try to figure out what we're supposed to be doing here. And again, it's easier when the institutions are not captive because you can use the resources to better your understanding. Like, we don't look at the world right now from the perspective of actual discovery and adventure. Like, we look at the world from a systemic need to maintain the fallacy of the spaceball delusion and everything else. And so what happens is we only do things that support the fake narrative instead of actually trying to explore and going to the far reaches of the world together and like taking photos of weird animals and stuff. We stopped doing that forever ago. Once they had the map figured out for where they were going to keep all of us in the prison, they just stopped sending boats around to make up islands and fantasy experiences. You know what I mean? Like, no more. We don't need to send Jesuits out to explore. It's already been discovered, But I think that it's more of that same thing where the order of operations, what really matters. We say things are out of order, it's disorder, it's chaos. These words all mean the same thing. It's a way that society has developed to express these things. That you can say, oh, things are out of order, things are disorderly. But what does that mean? It means doing things in the way they were designed to be done for the maximum effect. In the case of math, which is a logical grid, it's like a mechanical system. The bolts that go into the bolt holes have to be the same size as the bolt hole. It's a simple science about what we're dealing with. And that is how the world works societally. We don't know that because we've not seen an orderly society in our day. But everybody knows, you look back at like the 1950s and 1960s, when there was more order, there was less chaos. It's very simple. People will argue about, oh, society was this, society was that. People could afford homes, people had traditional families, people were getting married, people were going to schools and driving muscle cars, and the world was different because it was literally fiscally different. It was mechanically different. It was logistically different, and that is because the operations were being done differently, producing a different outcome. The order of what was important. Society today does not order truth and righteousness as a high virtue of importance. Today's society orders monetary gain, material wealth. That's what's more important in the world of the society we live in today, which is, again, why we have people who think that having 2 wives is a good idea. I'm not saying that it's a bad idea simply because wives are not a good idea. I'm just saying that, like, there's a lot to unpack about that. But the point is that he has gone to the point where instead of trying to just live a normal life and try to address the issues of today, this guy is trying to dig up the past and live in a time that we don't live in. He's trying to make himself King David or Solomon and have as many concubines or wives as he wants because in his mind, oh, it's a different time. I can do whatever I want. The Bible says so. But it's like today's issues are our problems. You're in a world where the birth rate is at an all-time low. Nobody's staying married. Why haven't you committed yourself to fighting for the advancement of truth instead of establishing your own doctrine? You see this happen all the time. Everybody finds something they think is important and they try to make a church out of it instead of just trying to advance people's understanding and help people move themselves forward. I talk about this all the time because there's a difference between being trained to sit in a seat at a church versus being trained to lead in every environment that you're in. Church teaches you to be content with your iniquity, but the kingdom teaches you to walk in authority, righteous authority. And something different. And that is woefully missing in our society today, and that's what it requires is us to start over with the correct order of operations. What does it really mean to be a Christian, a follower of Jesus? And what does it mean to be, truly restored? We talk about restoration all the time, and our society is rotten and rusty and broken, and corrupted, and has all these problems. Well, how do you address that? a restorative process. It doesn't happen overnight, but you have to have everyone in the workshop on the same page about what we're trying to do here. We're trying to take something that's not good and fix it. Not accept it for being broken, not tolerate it for being rotten and say, oh, it's good enough, we'll make the most of it. No, you have to have a standard of excellence, what I call kingdom quality, and it has to apply to whatever it is you're doing. That's where we get our whole issue with the priorities and with everything. And I actually have a point to make about that. Here, let me show you guys. I got a note here. All right, check it out. Triage. The preliminary assessment of patients or casualties in order to determine the urgency of their need for treatment and the nature of treatment required. Okay? So in hospital and otherwise, when a group of people come in, this car accident, everybody's hurt. You got one guy sitting there who's got a like a 3rd degree burn up the side of his body. He's not looking too good, but he's stable, you know? And then right next to him, his friend has got his arms chopped off or something, and he has dual arterial bleeds. His elbows are spraying blood like a garden hose. Having the understanding, the mental capacity, the maturity level to understand that both of those people are really badly hurt, okay? We're not trying to diminish the integrity or the intensity of the person with a 3rd degree burn down the whole side of their body. That is a terrible situation to be in, just like the polygamy issue is a major problem that needs to be resolved, whether it's going to be yes or no, okay? It needs to be resolved because you can't have that kind of division. I'm assuming it's no. But anyway, how can we ignore the dual arterial bleed going on in favor of the 3rd degree burn? Yes, I understand the sympathy of the man severely burned, wailing in the emergency room. We all relate to that. But the experienced professional looks at the man who is saying nothing as garden hoses of blood are spraying out of his 2 disembodied arms. Decapitated. His disembodied arms are shooting blood, and he's not saying anything. He's just... You look, it's not about what is societally exciting or what is the most interesting topic of the day that matters. It's about actually understanding the order of operations, what's truly important. Being able to use discernment to triage the issues of our time. What are the issues of today? Today's problems are sufficient for themselves. When I look out at the world today, I don't see polygamy as the problems of today. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's like, I don't see like this. Guys can't even get one wife out here, man. Like, having 2 of them is not the problem right now. So, it's another one of those, oh yeah, is it an issue? Yeah, is that 3rd degree? Oh man, it ain't looking good. It ain't looking good. But it ain't it, dude. That's not the battle that we're really in right now. And I can't tell you one thing, this is the single most important issue. There's a lot of them. There's like a laundry list of things that are actually the most important issue. But we can't just assume that we know exactly what it is. The problem comes from the fact that we, Christians, believers in the modern age, spend all of our energy on these things that are not actually of salvation. These are not the issues of salvation. If it was an issue of salvation, the Lord would have to have at some point addressed it, right? Jesus Christ himself would have, in some writing somewhere, maybe you've seen it and I haven't, he would have said how important that it is to have multiple wives to continue your legacy as a man or something. You're going to have many sons to build your castle. Or I didn't see that in there. I don't know about that, okay? And if I recall, I think it might be Peter who wrote, but I could be wrong. One of the apostles wrote that it was better to live in an attic and eat a dry crust of bread than to live with a contentious wife. So, I mean, obviously you want a good one, but the point is that, like, you could get married to somebody that super sucks. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that. And so it's really important that you pick a good one, and that we learn how to be, biblically grounded partners. It's more of that order of operations. We're out here getting married, making a bunch of kids, and we don't even ourselves know what the actual biblical truth is. Think about it. How many of you, everyone almost, with an exception of like no one, went out, got married, had kids, realized that like 30 or 50 or 70. Holy smokes, Jesus is real. I got to get my life figured out. It's like, oh, only now did we figure this out after like everything we did, you know? So it's like if only our order of operations were right. If we understood what it was like to not only live a life that was like in conjunction with what Jesus wants us to do, but that we also lived, you know, righteously in our lives, so that when we became a partner to someone else, that we were the partner that they deserved. And that they were the partner that we deserved righteously. So many marriages are failing because we don't know how to be, you know, biblical Christian husbands and wives. We don't know how to treat our neighbors. We don't know how to treat our other brothers and sisters in Christ with any kind of humility or meekness. And everyone's just like, no, I'm right. Screw you. 25 church divisions, you know? And no wonder the church has no power in the world, no authority, no uniformity, no standard, no effectiveness. I could do a whole episode about how bad the church sucks. I do it all the time. I'm just saying, like, what could we do if the church didn't suck? What if the church re-embodied the actual personal driving motivation that caused the early church what it did? I think we should look into that at some point. Maybe we'll talk about it on a Sunday service. We'll talk about the early church. You know, what these people believed in and how they believed it and how it became their lives for real. You know, on a night like tonight, we can joke and I can be misconstrued if necessary, but we can joke and be like, look at me and NERO hanging out. We're just chatting, having fun. Well, there's Epstein news and there's stuff about, you know, Trump and Bubba. Maybe we can talk about that too. But there's so many things going on. I'm just chilled out, just me and my wives. You know what I mean? Like, you can construe it that way. Of course, I'm just hanging out with you guys. We're having a good time. And I think there's some fruit in this kind of a conversation, like talking about the things that are pressing, but how they're still not more important than the kingdom, right? And I don't know how to get that across in such a way that's not like a broken record. But it took me forever to realize this. I mean, here's an example. I'll tell you guys a story. How important is the kingdom? Before I was saved and part of this whole thing, there's a great teacher. His name is Dr. Miles Monroe. You may have heard of him. He's one of my greatest inspirations. He was so big on kingdom theology and like believing in the kingdom and that Jesus was talking about the kingdom. You know, Jesus never preached the cross. Jesus preached the kingdom, the coming of it and the imminence of it and the way it was, what it looked like, what it felt like, what it would sound like, what it would be like, and how it would change the world. You know, that was the message of Jesus. And so he was on this kingdom message. And so he understood like dominion, like, well, it's the kingdom. We're a part of the kingdom. We should run everything. Like, very simple mentality, but he was so good about it. He was so much better than me. And he is down there in the Virgin Islands. I think he's from the Bahamas. But his ministry there was so prolific and powerful that he had influence all over all those Virgin Islands. The British, I think the United Kingdom, I don't know what you would call them because the names of these islands change over the years, but there's a segment of the Virgin Islands that belong to England, UK. I don't even know what their national identity is anymore. I'm sorry. Probably like 70% Arab. But anyway, the U.S. Virgin Islands have constitutional representation in the form of Congress members. And so there are a couple of members from the U.S. Virgin Islands. I think it might just be one. Stacy Plaskett is their name. And I remember a few years ago, you know, Miles Monroe had dominion over those islands. His ministry had so much social pressure in the Bahamas and the Virgin Islands that they couldn't get a person into Congress that wasn't like a Christian, like one of these like, you know, churchy Black Islander church Christians. Really cool, down-to-earth people. And there's a history of people that under the years that Miles Monroe was running that ministry there, the people really had like this dominion over the local office, and they couldn't control America from one representative on an island somewhere. But their islands were like, you better be up with the Lord. You better be on the right track with God over here. Because they had that little dominion going on. And it's actually just a real tragedy, you know. We look back, Miles Monroe, unfortunately, although he was living the kingdom life, the Lord called him back, probably because he was way too effective and we were about to go through some real learning experiences. And I don't think God wanted us to shortcut to Miles. He wanted us to learn some stuff before we got the kingdom. Now we've learned a lot. The noticing, the COVID thing, a lot of stuff happened. And we needed to go through it. It was all things working together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purposes, real time, okay? But Miles Monroe, his wife, passed away in 2014. And the very next year, 2015, Stacey Plaskett comes in to become the representative of the U.S. Virgin Islands. And maybe I should pull them up, just because I remember the first time I ever saw Stacey Plaskett. And I was like, I'm having Big Mike flashbacks, my friends. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, look at the jawline. Oh, please let me look at it up close. Come on. What, don't you worry. I'm sorry. I need one of these. I need one of these to be a little more fair to me. Anyway, I'm sorry. Everybody knows that we're living in a day where there are characters that are not what they claim to be and what they represent themselves to be, okay? And so this character, who, as far as I'm concerned, is basically Big Mike's brother, this person showed up and started serving in the U.S. Congress. And, of course, at the time I was offended. Not that I was a big follower of Dr. Miles Monroe, but I saw this person in representation around the 2016 timeline, 2017, during when we were all on Q stuff. And I remember thinking, like, man, it's another Big Mike. All the president's wives are actually men, and it's Big Mike, and it was just not a good feeling. And then when I did some research, I found out, you know what? All it took was for Dr. Miles Monroe to be dead for 1 day. I mean, 1 day, 1 year. Not a day, I'm sorry. He was dead for less than a year, and they immediately got this representative. They immediately got one of the members of the club and the crew and of a questionable biology. And interestingly enough, in the news lately, this has been going through the news. I was amazed to see it. All of these news stories that have come out lately, where after in 2014 it had come out that Jeffrey Epstein was a prolific trafficker and a criminal and all this stuff, it comes out in this new dump of emails and everything from his stockpile that he and Stacey Plaskett are texting buddies. Stacey Plaskett, while sitting in the House of Congress on Capitol Hill, is just casually exchanging text messages with prolific evil pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And nobody cared. Nobody knew. And I guess people know now, but it's like, I've always been able to smell this crap from a mile away. It's something almost like 10 years ago I said, this is a bad guy. This is not what they say it is. Notice how they had to get rid of Miles Monroe before they could get a leg up and put this monster in who's directly connected to this one. You see how this works? Order of operations. They had a kingdom minister. They had a church there that was doing the job. It was oppressing the public. It wasn't oppressing them. It was oppressing the government. For the same reason that the Second Amendment exists, to keep them in check. It's crazy. For the same reason the Second Amendment exists, the church exists. They talk about separation of church and state, and everybody thinks that means, keep the church out of our government. No, it was keep the government out of our church. You're not going to tell us when we're going to worship, who we're going to worship. You're not going to put on the land laws that go against our faith. We are the government. The separation of church and state was to keep you out of our business, not to keep us out of your business. You work for me. And you're about to learn, too. That's what CDM is all about, guys. Getting things back to where they make a lot of sense and actually work. Order of operations. We're going to go back to taking control of our municipalities and localities so that our representatives in the federal government work for us or else. It's not just about that. It's about transitioning to a proper form of government that has individual accountability. The constitutional republic is a failed experiment. The Constitution did not uphold. It was destroyed, shredded, and used as an asswipe. The result is a democracy appearing as a democracy. What it actually is a corporate, cultic oligarchy in which democracy is projected on a public that has no say. The whole thing is cooked. Order of operations. You can't sit here and vote your way out. You don't have a vote. It doesn't count. Order of operations. Again, we can do this all day, but look at the idea as simple as the world is on fire. There are real problems outside. I love to bring it up for some reason. I don't know. The world's on fire. And yet, we somehow find a way to get distracted by other things. And this is exactly my point. The Stacy Plaskett Epstein, the Trump, Bubba, if you know, you know. All that stuff is a distraction. It's not actually important. Not that it's unimportant, but it's like the polygamy thing. We're over here being totally ransacked by an evil, multi-generational cult criminal mafia that dates back probably thousands of years. And they have been totally lying into and manipulating us with everything from Charlie Kirk to Epstein to Plaskett to Big Mike. Everything you can imagine has been going on is just this like strobing flash of 1,000 frames per second strobing flash of distractions and stuff. And what is it? What's really going on? There's a giant like Nephilim Titan horde being relocated from subterranean China to the United States for the final battle. I don't know that. But I can see why people would be concerned that they were doing something because of how much distraction there is, right? Like nowadays, it's okay to notice what's going on with that nation of tiny hats in the Middle East. Now we're allowed to notice it and talk about it. What is that all about? It's crazy. And Jasper Jaguar says, we need a little season convention or Millennial Kingdom Con or Con. We tried to usher in the idea of a little season convention once, and it did not it did not go over well. We're not there yet. Maybe in a couple years time the world will look a little different and we'll be ready for like kingdom convention, you know what I mean? Like constitutional convention. Like we've got a lot of problems here that need to be addressed, and then basically everything happening here happens elsewhere as a result of America's influence. So there's another example. Order of operations. Like, would it be better for us to try to create Christian dominion in the Virgin Islands, or would it be better to try and get the United States as a whole? Like, would it be better to go for like Serbia? Like, we're going to get Christian dominion in Serbia. They might even have that. Actually, no, I think they already had a civil war over that like twice. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, how are you going to decide who wins the Serbian civil war if you don't have the United States military at your disposal? It's all about that. I think this stuff is very logical. I want to get to a point where I could just go on shows and be like, well, you know how the world's run by a bunch of villains and corporate evil greed people and human traffickers and such? Yeah, what if it was Christians instead? Like, it seems so simple. But the problem is we have to unlearn what a fake Christian is and reteach what a real Christian is. That's the reality of the situation. So we do have a lot on our plate. What does that mean? In the case of this, it's like we have to figure out what's really important and become the example, because that's the only way the world's going to change. Jesus Christ knew that we needed an example, so he became it. And that's the same, we have the same charge. Like, if we can create a parallel society that takes care of each other, loves each other, has healthy marriages and families, has safe congregations, effective leadership, people will start to yearn for the only piece of society that works. I see people on the internet looking for Amish lifestyle. They're like, man, I'm about to go become Amish. Because at least then, look, I see them doing it. I saw an advertisement for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they have these 20-somethings, cute girls being like, you should come and join the church. And it's because they know there's an epidemic of young guys who don't have a wife, who are working every day at the freaking welding plant or whatever. And they're like, man, I could probably be Mormon. They're like, or whatever. I know I'd get a wife out of the deal. They're like, come down and get you a Mormon wife and put 15% of your money into the Mormon church. And it's like, look, don't get me wrong. It's not great what they're doing, but they're doing dominion. They're over there looking for guys with money, trying to convince them to come to the church. They're going to assign them somebody's daughter as a wife. They're going to get married, and that guy's going to have to pay tithe into the church now because he's on the hook. It's not righteous, but they're trying to take control. That's because they know that their faith delineation, whatever, their denomination is unpalatable and false, so they just use manipulative techniques. What if you had a palatable, true eschatology doctrine of Christianity that was about empowering individuals to their own personal leadership position, the one that God has given to them in their life? Everything that you've been given authority over, whether it's your family or your job or the trade that you work, the Lord's given you responsibility and authority over subjects that we look at in our lives and take for granted. It's like, it doesn't seem important in the grand scheme, so we don't honor it. But half the time, the Lord just needs us to prove that we can honor the small things, so he can go and do big things with us. You know, we have a crappy car in the driveway, and it's not clean, and it's not well maintained, and it's not cared for, and everybody wishes they had a brand new truck and a brand new house, and it's like the roof's falling off your house, and your car's not had brakes on it in years, and it squeaks all the time, and you stop and you don't address it. You just keep driving it into the ground. It's like, does God want to give the kingdom to people who are going to treat it like that, who aren't going to take responsibility to care for its growth and its development? The church has for so long been occupied by people that don't do anything, so God doesn't give them anything. You guys don't do anything. It's the parable of the talents. I don't mean you. I mean you're the church. The church doesn't do anything, so God doesn't give the church anything to do anything with. So they then manipulate people into giving their money and stuff to it, but that doesn't really fix it. It's all about priorities. If we had down the true idea of Christianity and lived it, then we could be the example for other people, and nobody would wonder what a real Christian was. They wouldn't think that an evil pope was the church, or a polygamist cult in Utah or whatever. And that's really important. People have had like profound disappointment in their leaders because all of the people in positions of authority have been failing to focus on what's really important. It comes all the way down to stuff like with the Nick Fuentes America First versus MAGA thing, where for the longest time, Trump ran on the idea of making America great, and people wanted America great because they're Americans, they live here, and they wanted to pay less for groceries and gas. It's very simple to make people happy. Make it easy to afford a house. Help create cultural influences that drive traditional families to success. Use some of the money the way that the Democrats funded all these trans programs with the government. Look, all that Doge thing, they discovered billions and billions of US dollars that went to make sure salaries were paid and programs were funded, all for the indoctrination of children. Why is there not a re-indoctrination program? Why is there not a Christ for Kids, U.S. taxpayer-funded education going into everyone's school, and then the leftists can shriek and roll around on the ground that they're mad about the curriculum? Oh, it's about to be pastor story time at the thing. Guys are going to come in and read from the Bible to the students at the school. Oh, I bet you'll be so mad. I bet you try to protest that one. We're losing the fight because we are not fighting. Our church do-nothing doctrine is pervasive. It's taught everybody to do nothing. We need help. A lot. But it starts with us. Other people don't realize that there's a cohesive movement about empowering people to their authority. I don't need you to become a roommate at someone else's spiritual house. You are the heir to your own authority in Christ. So every single one of you guys, you don't need to be training wheels or led along like a horse. You guys, all of you people are smart and capable, and the Lord has put within you everything you need to be empowered in this world as a leader, not just as someone who sits in a chair. Look at how much more ahead of everybody else that you are for a time such as this. If you know that you're not on a ball flying through space, and stuff like the first century was the actual return of Christ, it's like you're miles beyond everybody. It's like you have superpowers, and so we need to change the way we think about stuff. And not look at ourselves like, the world's all out of control and we're powerless. No, like we're in charge totally, and we just need to do it. It seems easier said than done, but it's totally possible. It's all about prioritizing what's important, triaging, and taking care of the most important things first. That's what we need to do. Is it important that the church handles its divisions and eschatological and doctrinal differences? 100%. I think it's one of the most important things ever, because I'm more concerned with the kingdom. I made a joke earlier about society, right? It's like there's a rust under the surface. Then the rust is finally bubbled up to the top, and everybody can see how rotten everything is, finally. Well, what are we going to do? Just complain about it, or are we going to get to work? There needs to be a Holy Spirit sandblasting that comes down and blasts away all that rust, all that iniquity. And then we need the reformer, the redeemer, rust transformer, Jesus Christ, rust redeemer, to turn that rust away into a non-corrosive circumstance, right? It's over. We cleaned it up. We neutralized it. Now it's quiet. Now, the people of the church, we're the primer. We're the one who lays down the foundation of an earth that is ready to receive that Holy Spirit gloss coat. What Jesus wants to have in the world, what God wants to have in the world is his kingdom on earth. That's why the Lord's Prayer says, give us this day our daily bread, lead us not into temptation, deliver us from the evil one. But before that, it says, your kingdom come on earth, just as it is in heaven. Thy will be done, thy kingdom come. So God wants his kingdom here. We need to prep the world to receive the kingdom. It's not about saying that we shall personally do God's will unless he asks us to. But what we should be is fertile ground. And I don't see fertile ground in this land. This land is woefully unprepared for anything kingdom related in life. We look around and it's like we're over here arguing about Epstein and polygamy, not where's the temple going to be. And I don't mean like, what I mean is where's the gathering place for the people? Where's the new kingdom hall going to be? Where's the new swimming pool going? How thick is the gold plating on the roadway? Is it 2 inches thick or 4 inches thick? I can't remember. You see what I mean? Our issues are supposed to be elsewhere. Our thoughts are supposed to be elsewhere. Rome is burning, and we're over here worried about polygamy and things that don't really matter. Now look, salvation is important. It's not by any means less important than the kingdom, but it's a separate issue. People don't enter the kingdom unless they're born by water and of the Spirit, born again. So you can't get to the kingdom without salvation. So you have to get to Jesus. He's the way, the truth, and the life. He's the way. And if we want to enter the kingdom, we have to have Jesus. And that's our focus. So we're all concerned about stuff outside the gate. We're all concerned about stuff along the way. But nobody's talking about the kingdom. And that is our final destination. So we need to be people that prepare our hearts for such a kingdom, our minds, our bodies, and ultimately the land, the world we live in. If we want to see kingdom come touch down on the earth, we need to build an earth that's ready to receive that kingdom. Holy Spirit landing pad. I think that the world is primed for a unification movement like CDM. The world is ready to accept a true, outwardly spoken understanding that it's time for Christians to rule the world again. Whether you want to say again as in a millennial reign, or again as in Roman Catholics, Byzantines, I don't care. I don't care if it looks like guys in Crusader helmets or guys dressed like the U.S. military fighting terror in the Middle East. Whatever ideology, whatever the image looks like in your brain, it can no longer be people like Epstein and Plaskett deciding the world, the goings on of the world. This guy's trafficking kids and blackmailing people, and this guy is in office putting out him and his cohorts' collective plans are being put into motion by this guy over here on the right, and that guy over there. You know what I mean? That is what happened. Like, I think you could ask an atheist. You have this guy, and then like a Christian average pastor. Which one is the better option? Like, pick. It's such a no-brainer. I don't care if you think Christians are boring or uptight, or even if you think they're oppressive. Like, you're already under the oppression of a multi-generational cult that charges $4 a gallon for gas. It comes out of the ground. It's so horrible. And there was an era in this country where they were putting out 500 cubic inch V8s that had 120 horsepower because you're breathing through a pinhole because you have to have environmental concerns. Meanwhile, China has like a giant coal-fired smokestack billowing into the atmosphere all day long, and nobody's telling China what to do. Just you. Oh, you can't drive diesel. You can't have a high-powered V8. You can't afford gasoline. Just you. Ooh, Rome is burning. And Nero is fiddling around and not getting things done. Now, I don't mean myself, because again, we're having a good time, but actually I wanted to talk about Nero a little bit before we got done tonight, because I was thinking about it. You know how people like Nero and others are written into history as like bad guys, right? Like even secular history basically regards Nero as, in the case of Nero fiddles while Rome burns, it's an understanding, at least anecdotally, that Nero didn't care as his empire was crumbling. You know, as Rome is burned to the ground by angry Christians, which is what happened, he's just sitting there and not doing anything. In fact, he's playing music and singing and dancing. Is he a guy that's just profoundly not concerned? Like so many leaders of the world today, it's like Trump is out there golfing while the world is burning. You know what I mean? America is in turmoil, and we've got a leader that golfs. We've got leaders who text Epstein when they're supposed to be at work. I don't even hardly use my phone at work at all, and I'm allowed to. Like, I actually care about getting my job done, so I'm not on my phone. It shows how ineffectual these people are. Holy crap. But yeah, so there's a major difference, right, between people who do what they're supposed to do and people that don't, and you know it because you are one. You're somebody who does what you're supposed to do, and the people who don't really, really grind my gears. But the point is, we're supposed to be moving in that direction. And somebody like NERO is a guy that they saw as ineffectual, or in other words, like distracted. You know, he was too busy doing the whole I'm gonna lay back and take it easy with my wives and concubines or whatever. While the world burns, I'm chilling out, thinking about things that I think are interesting. You know, instead of actually trying to make a difference. And, you know, it's like NERO, we don't really know how accurate that history is. I mean, I don't trust the founding of the United States. I said this earlier. It's like, I don't trust the story about the founding of the United States, let alone things that supposedly happened 2,000 years ago, right? Like, that's a long time ago. It's weird to think that we could trust what they were saying when they lie about what happened in 2020. That was like 5 years ago, and they've already rewritten that whole history. History written by the victors, brought to you by Pfizer. The 2020 story, as told by Pfizer and Bill Gates. I'm sure that's a non-biased and accurate story that we can trust. That's so wild to think about. But NERO, right? Imagine NERO isn't who they said he was. Just like that mustache guy, right? Guy with the skinny mustache. Now, that guy just cared about his people like me. You know, I resonate with that a lot. I care about the future of this country and these people in this country. It really does matter to me. And that's kind of the case of Mustache Man. You may not always say the perfect right thing or have the perfect right answer. You might actually screw up and ruin everything, you know, human nature. Obviously, it wasn't God's will for Germany to escape. And we're still in the pen, too, so to speak. Hitler failed. I never thought I'd say that, but he failed to do what was necessary. You know, he didn't succeed. And so he was written into history as the worst villain of all time. And you look at somebody like NERO, and it's like, you think NERO was a bad guy too? Or do you think it's possible maybe he was glad to see Rome burn to the ground? He was celebrating, playing guitar and singing songs. Like, how easy could that be the truth? The anecdote says he was singing and playing the song. What if he was glad? You know, history records that NERO is the first pope, right? And we believe the pope is bad because we've learned Catholicism's not right. And we're like, well, we don't need a mediator. Jesus is the mediator. Any person who tries to be the mediator is a fraud because Jesus is the mediator. We don't need someone between us and God. We have him. And he's alive today, and he's king today. But NERO was the first pope, and he was the guy who basically oversaw Rome changing all of its holidays and traditions to fit with Christianity. And I know we look at that as a corruption. We say, oh, they created a fake version of a pagan Yule holiday and turned it into Christmas, and they pretended that it was about Jesus. But I mean, there were American families who, you know, from childhood to college to beyond, they celebrated Christmas every year. They only ever believed it was about Jesus's birth. And then they grew up and then started to see in the 90s the commercialism really rising and being like, man, this is bad. This is a battle between Jesus and commercialism. Never once considering that the whole holiday was a pagan holiday. They just slapped a Christian label on and started selling it to everybody. But look, that's how we view it. Secularly, that's the history, is that, oh yeah, they just relabeled Christianity as something else, or, you know, pagan holidays as Christianity, and posed Christianity to be something it wasn't, so that people would continue to celebrate Yule and stuff. And you can say all that stuff, but it's like, how do we know that that's exactly what happened, right? How do you know that somebody like NERO wasn't like, we need to move the Roman people from where they are to Christianity, which is what we're doing now, because I, NERO, am a Christian. He makes himself Pope. He's like, I got to show these people what to do. These guys don't believe in the Messiah. He comes out. He starts ordering everyone around. I'm just being hypothetical. Okay, they call him the Antichrist, people think. Maybe he was. Maybe he was like, no eating or drinking unless you take the mark of the beast and la la la. 100% possible. But, you know, history says so many things that are so conflicting and so complicated. And it's like, how do you even know that's true? Like maybe Maybe Nero was a bad guy. Maybe he was a pagan and tried to just kind of piggyback Christianity to keep himself in power and to elevate himself through the church and Rome and everything. But, history says that the Christians won. Christians won. And the millennial reign existed for 1,000 years, and there's proof all over the world of it. And Jesus never lied either. I mean, it's central to the Christian belief that you believe in Jesus. He says so. You're either with me or you're against me. I believe him. I believe he said he'd come back in the life of those disciples. That's the thing about that audience relevancy, right? He was talking to those people at that time. You can have a Ford truck. Your next door neighbor has a Chevy truck. And you break into your neighbor's mailbox and you steal his mail. It's not your mail, it's a neighbor's mail. And you're reading it and something comes in, a notice about your truck. And it's like, yeah, the whatever on that Chevy truck. And it's like you're trying to make a notice about a Chevy truck be about your Ford truck, and it's not about your Ford truck. You stole the neighbor's mail, okay? It's not about you. Stop trying to make it be about you. The Bible, the disciples, it's about a time and a place that's passed. People that have passed. And their lessons are important, but it's crazy to think we would take something written to somebody else and be like, well, that's about me, right? And start trying to apply it to our life. It's like the logic of the guy at the very beginning where he's like, the Bible is full of things that happened, but you shouldn't just go do yourself. It doesn't mean you should go do them. It's like the best, simplest logic ever. You're dealing with people who are atheists and they've really been given over to their carnal mind and they're not very smart anymore. And they're coming up with ideas like, well, there was that one time in the Bible where the earth opened up and ate everybody. And it's like, yeah, that's a story. It's not, it's like, oh, well, watch out. We might start waving our arms around outside of your government building. The earth might just open up and consume you. Maybe. I kind of wish stuff like that was happening, to be honest. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But what's most important is that we get back on track. Order of operations, triage. Focus on what's really important. That's the bottom line of tonight's message, is that our leaders, whether it's church, government, media, entertainment, religion, whatever, everybody's misguided in what they think is important, even me. Nobody's perfect. And I'm not trying to sit here from a high horse and say everyone should do what I do. I wish I was a better witness. I wish I had better financial and societal success that I could use to leverage the truth that I know. I wish I had more influence so I could inspire more people about this stuff. Of course, we all have ways we could do better. Less profanity, less weird. Don't be such a freaking weirdo. That might help. Why are you laughing like little girl? Maybe if you didn't act so weird, people would listen to you. Maybe. But I'm only me. All I want is for everyone to be them. Maybe my witness isn't the witness. Maybe it's yours. People need to hear the truth spoken loudly from everybody. Not content. Not comfortable in their iniquity. But walking in righteousness with their authority. It's a different thing. Being a member of the kingdom is different. And in the same way that Dr. Miles Monroe held it down, he kept Tranny Plaskett off the island. There was no transgender representative. Now there is. What's the difference? It's the kingdom, the influence of the kingdom. If we become the kind of people who can bring that kingdom influence into the world, then we can create something better, something different. Something that holds ourselves and each other to a higher standard, and the world will see that, and they will prioritize what makes their life better. So you don't have to do battle with the forces of the world or fight off the government, open up the earth and crush buildings. If you can be better, people will recognize it. It's the penalty of leadership. It's the burden of being the best. Everyone will try to copy you. Everyone will try to one-up you. So make the thing that you do be something they can't cheaply rip off. Make it something they can't plagiarize. Because if you plagiarize the message of the kingdom, you're doing your job. You're advancing said kingdom. It's the only thing that it's like, rip me off, steal my spiel, CDM. Like everyone should be out making their own CDM channel. Well, by the way, the world would be better if it wasn't run by Satanists, heathens, Muslims. You know what I mean? Real Christians. What does that really mean? How are we supposed to be? What's the definition of a real Christian? Probably not polygamy, probably not Mormons, probably not Catholics. You know? It's like with anything, it's somewhere in the middle there. And we'll figure it out. We will. I think I saw a Doctor Who was taking off. I might be late, but good to see you, brother. Thanks for being here tonight with us. Guys, it's just been great having all of you here for Wednesday night. I promised I wasn't going to rant, and then I started ranting. It's easy for one bad actor to destroy a tower made by good people. How will CDM succeed where other Christian agencies have been usurped by Satan? It's a good question. It's a really good question. I think at the end of the day, what CDM is really about is about giving people what they need to have the kingdom in their life without somebody telling them what it looks like. If you draw near to the Lord, if you enter into the kingdom, you can't mistake it for anything else. If you're really there, you look to your left and you say, I know what's to my left, I know what's to my right, I know what's above me and behind me. The kingdom becomes a part of your mind, a part of your heart, a part of your soul. It becomes the place that you call home. And once you're in, you can never go back. You cannot help but see the juxtaposition of the world today in its fallen state against the world and what it should be. The streets should be made of gold, but instead they're full of potholes. There's no way you can change my mind about that. That's what the kingdom is about. You get that in your heart and in your mind, and you'll see it everywhere you go. I drove by a vineyard on the way up to the mountain a couple months back with my brother, and there was this row of grapevines. And they're all fruit-bearing vines. They're excellent. They're loved by this farm. They press small batch wines. It's really cool. And down on the end in one of the rows was like this really scraggly, ugly-looking vine. And they don't kill it because it produces. But it's really ugly and twisted and whatever. And it's not to say that it doesn't have value because it's ugly and twisted. But I look at that row of every one a perfectly straight one and then a big, twisty, broken one. And all I'm reminded of is that the world has fallen. That twisty grapevine may be doing well in its current twisted and form. It passes the smell test and say, this produces enough, we keep it. Because they don't care about what it looks like. They want grapes. So it performs. But why can't we have a kingdom quality where they're all perfectly straight and nice? In the same way we look at humanity, we say a person in a wheelchair, a person who's paralyzed, a person who's blind or deaf or mute, they're not less valuable than the other vines that are straight and narrow. You know, we don't look at somebody in a wheelchair and say, well, you're less. But shouldn't that man stand? Shouldn't that blind person see? Because it isn't about your value. It's about your capacity. We were made to rule this place, not to be ruled by it. And when you sit there on your mat, paralyzed, waiting for the waters to heal you, you're a slave, hoping for an opportunity out of your cell, a way to escape. Jesus Christ brings the key to the cell. Not just the key to the cell, the key to the entire palace. So you go from being the prisoner in the cell to being king on the throne. That's what Jesus offers the world. People don't seem to recognize that because they get caught up in all the mumbo jumbo of all of it. But that authority, that power that comes from the kingdom is what will drive people to success. And it doesn't require a building, an auditorium, a good preacher, or anything like that. It requires access to the kingdom through the way, the truth, and the life. That is Christ Jesus. And that is something we have to get through our skulls, right? In the same way that if we want to unite the churches and come together, if we want to make the world a better place, sort out our differences once we're in a safe place to do so, I'm for it. I think we could agree on that. Catholics, Protestants, Mormons, Lutherans, Baptists, whatever. Every Mormon subclass, every Seventh Day. If you believe Jesus is the Son of God and King of Kings, let's talk about that only and recognize that there's a world outside that doesn't want that anymore. There's a world outside that doesn't like him, doesn't want him. In fact, there's a faction of specific ones that reject him who are running everything, and they shouldn't be. And you can ask any person with just a smidgen of knowledge about noticing everything that's going on. You say, would it be better if instead of the world being run by tiny hat star people, it was run by cross people, Christian people, God-fearing, Jesus-focused people? You know, like I would argue, is the Christian polygamist a better option than Epstein or Plaskett? I think so. I hope so. It's a starting point. Order of operations. Let's get a Christian in first. Let's get Christianity in front I don't care what it is. I mean, we got to know what Christians really believe. Jesus Christ, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, Son of Man, Son of God, alive today, risen King, currently King. There's a few caveats there, and you can't do anything that's like explicitly against the teachings of Christ because he says you're with me or against me. So, Giant Tree says polygamy is technically allowed but disqualifies one from leadership. All the more reason to point out Pastor what's his name with his multiple wives. He's got a giant log sticking out of his eye. If he wants to be a multiple wives guy, he needs to go do it in a tower out there or something. And the wives need to be consenting, by the way. I think that we have a major problem with the polygamy thing and people being effectively coerced and or forced into these situations. I don't know that, but yeah. I think we need to figure out how to stop arguing over dispensationalism and little differences just for a minute because we're in a crisis. Rome is burning and we can't be playing guitar and doing the Jeremy Camp thing, right? And I get it, right? I said it earlier, I'll say it again. We got to make a distinction between the work and the break. Because if somebody spends some time playing music and you want to judge him and be like, oh, this guy does his post stupid songs and the world's burning. Think about that everybody has 24 hours in their day and we're not really here to pass judgment, but we're looking at ourselves and saying, what did I do with my 24 hours today? And recognize that some days don't look like you did anything. If you were on the outside looking in, you did nothing on Saturday, well, you rested. You needed to rest. You work 6 days. If you don't rest, you crash out and then you're useless. It's like a grapevine. You chop it off, it doesn't produce grapes at all. Even if you are a little crooked, at least you're doing something, right? And again, I think that what's most important is that we recognize that God wants us to be fruitful in the capacity that we have been given. If he wants to make you king of the earth, you got to be king of cereal box. You know what I mean? You got to be able to handle small things he's given you and have a good spirit about it so that when he gives you big things, you'll have the same spirit because it's going to be worse. It's going to be harder. You're going to be more tired. You're going to be more mad. You're going to be torn down by more forces than ever trying to pursue this thing. So we need to be totally contrite about it and say, look, the world will be better with Christians, Jesus first. All right? Not make America great again. Not America first. Not America only. Jesus first. Okay? That's the new political movement. That's what CDM is. Jesus first. So if we can get Jesus first, put Jesus first, then that will basically, because you'll look ahead and be like, well, they want to decide to send this much money to them. Looks over, Jesus first. Was that a good allocation of the kingdom? To just throw that money into the hands of warlords in a developing country? Oh, no, it's not. Oh, okay. Apparently it's not a good idea to just throw billions of dollars into the hands of warlords in developing countries. Good to know. See, because part of the whole Christ going ahead of us is also have a mind of Christ that's not insane and delusional. It's not, it's easier said than done, but we pray for clarity. Let the Holy Spirit be your guide. It's very valuable to do that, and you can learn a lot. Giant Tree says, well, there are things worth arguing over. I have 3 to 7 things. It depends on how you look at them, is why there's a variable number, on whether or not I will break fellowship with someone over doctrine. Indeed, it isn't Christian nationalism as our country means nothing. It's the kingdom. Exactly, Giant Tree, right. It's about the people of God's kingdom, which transcends language and borders and genders and races, If someone's in the kingdom with you, it's it's a joy that they're with you. And it doesn't matter. In my experience, whenever I see somebody in the kingdom, it almost is better. It's the only time where you can say diversity is king or whatever. The diversity of the kingdom is the only real diversity that there is. All these other ones are artificial. And it's oh, well, what makes us diverse is that there's people with different colored skin or whatever. But that's not diversity. They're all monolithic in their thinking. Everybody here's a far leftist. Look at our diversity. That's not diversity. It's just a bunch of different booger eaters in the same room. I'm talking about if you want real diversity, you have to have people who enter the kingdom collectively and they assimilate to the kingdom. So it doesn't matter what your skin is or what your national origin is. We're all kingdom people now. I don't have loyalty to Israel or the United States or some country in Africa. My kingdom is not of this world, So it's not where I'm standing that matters. It's where we come from. And if you make it, that's the thing that's so crazy about Jesus. and it's the scripture says this is a little scary to think about, but Jesus says that the sheep know the shepherd, and that he calls his sheep unto himself. So everyone who comes to the Messiah, everyone who comes to know Jesus already belonged to him, and he called us to him in some way. And so what we need to recognize is that we're not actually like deciding to be kingdom citizens. We already were, and we came in here and forgot, and Jesus calls us back to do the work he sent us here to do. That's the thing about it. You should be so empowered by that, knowing that, and in a way, it's kind of like predestination, but it's because you're certain to succeed. He picked you to succeed. He didn't pick you to fail. He didn't send you to fail. If God had sent Moses into the world to fail, the Hebrews would have never left Egypt. But he sent you to succeed for the kingdom. So that's why we're here. That's one of the reasons I know we're taking on the biggest thing in the world. Like what, a Christian kingdom revival movement in the most oppressive time in the modern world, where it's like crazy. Everyone's out to get you. Everybody's going to try to like be Ravi Zacharias. Everyone's a pervert, you know? Like it's like there's landmines everywhere. There's no way to do this. We can't survive this. But I just have so much confidence in it. I've never seen more fertile ground. Like all of you guys and everyone here, and we haven't even broken in the mainstream. That's one thing I appreciate about this community, is that we're small and we're knit tight, and we're like, you know, in a way, kind of an echo chamber. But like, there's a million's a short, like a way short draw. It's like there's probably 100 million people in the United States that would totally resonate with CDM. Everyone, even atheists and middle people, are like so sick of the foolishness, degeneracy, crime wave that's going on that would easily be stopped by moral authority. But all these like heathens like act like they can't do anything. Releases a guy with 17 priors. Come on. That's because the judge knows nobody's going to do anything to them. Well, that's going to change. Soon they will be held to account too. It's all about, you know, working our way, order of operations. You know, you can't decide that the judge should be charged until you have control of the justice system, so you have to work your way up. But that starts with first having the hearts and minds of people changed in the right direction. The first thing is, we deserve better than this. When you realize that you were fearfully and wonderfully made for higher callings, you know that you deserve better, and you reach towards that. And that's what's really necessary, is that you aim for what's really important. Focus on what's actually important. We all have to keep that in mind. Meditate, pray about it, give it up to the Lord. Many are the plans in man's heart, but nevertheless, it's the Lord's will which shall prevail. And in this case, we need the Lord's will more than anything. The Lord's counsel which shall prevail. So whatever he wants for us, we have to lean into that. Again, focusing on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. If there's a firestorm outside, we need to fight fire with fire, the holy fire, right? And so we need that Holy Spirit fire, and we're only going to get that through the kingdom, the way, the truth, and the life, Christ Jesus, and Father who built it all and made it all for us. I think that we're definitely on the right track, and it's like Dr. Who said, how are we going to build something like this without it being usurped by Satan? I said, become uncopyable. That's what I said. Become something that they cannot plagiarize without doing the work for you. If somebody wants to come out and try to be the new CDM guy and try to, who starts out bigger than me, oh, he's already got a church and 100K followers. You know what we need, guys, is we need a movement of Christians who dominate the earth. Some guy comes out and starts like spinning the thing. You'll know by the fruit. That's the difference. Are people becoming empowered, or is a guy just getting more views on YouTube? I don't get views over this. Whenever I talk about this stuff, we get less views. But it's not because it's a lack of popularity. I think people resonate with this message a lot. I think people are ready for like the church to grow some balls. And then we'll figure it out. If I'm too rough around the edges, I'll go live in a tower in the desert after we save the world. Come on. And like, I know people get mad. Well, you can't save the world, they say. That's complete nonsense. We're members of the kingdom that's not of this world. This world is like it's a sandbox for us. We're of the kingdom of victory and authority, power and love. The world is to be changed. Mountains are to be moved by the faith of a mustard seed. Imagine what we'll do with faith the size of mountains when we decide we know that we're members of God's kingdom, that we are the primer for its arrival. The kingdom of God will come to this world. It is a guaranteed fact. Whether you live to see it or not, I can't tell you, but what I can tell you is that if you live your life striving for it, the Lord will let you see it in your life, live it in your life, and that will go out like a flame to infect everyone and everything around you. And I can tell because I see it in my life now. This channel didn't exist before I was kingdom. Now I'm kingdom. And now all of you are here and you guys are kingdom, and the world will soon be kingdom too. It's only a matter of time. Why? Because it's not my idea. It's Jesus's message, and he can't lose. It's a great thing. All the responsibility is gone in trying to figure out how to make this happen. I tell you, I sit here, I worry sometimes. I lay there at night thinking, God, how can we reach the world? How can we tell everybody the truth about your kingdom? How can we empower people to break free from the slave chains that exist only in our mind, that we've allowed them to put this on us? And so because we all collectively believe in the chains' rigidity, we allow it to lead us. But I think that we can break free and have real leadership that doesn't ignore the fire outside in favor of pretty songs and pretty ladies. We have more important things to do, bigger fish to fry, so to speak. And I don't care whether it's, putting things on a to-do list, because that's how you get things done, right? Order of operations. That's what math is. If we want a solution to our problem, if we want an outcome that makes sense, we have to do things in the right order. The first order is to get people correct in their thinking, to get a Christian dominion movement that teaches people what it really means to be a member of Christ's kingdom and the authority that you have in Christ and the responsibility that you have therein. That it's not about saving America, it's not about saving our European counterparts or anything, or any Western or Eastern identity. It's about a new kingdom that is here in the hearts of man. It's established, it's alive today. Jesus is alive today. And so the difference is only whether we live it or not. And I do believe it's God's will that the world will be made whole again. The former things will pass away, and there will be a new heaven and a new earth, and I want to be part of that. I think we all have a role to play in bringing the world closer to that reality. Whether we live to see it or not is totally up to God. But if we have willful hearts and fertile ground, I believe that the seeds he's planted will prosper and that we will see a new heaven and a new earth. Whether it's a tree we plant that we never get to sit under the shade of, or whether it's like a magic beanstalk and we plant it and it's just like, you know what I mean? Either way, I'm just here to do the will of the Father, and he is the true vine. You know, he's the gardener, and he will see to our development, our growth, our pruning, and our ultimate success. I really believe that. But guys, hey, that's just about it, isn't it? I can't believe 2 hours just went by just like that. I know I said I wasn't going to rant, but then I did it anyway. You guys know I'm a creature of habit. But hey, it feels good sometimes to just come out and kick back and share my thoughts with you guys a little bit anyway. As you guys know, big video coming up really soon here on the Cult of Con, as well as the future for CDM, the new channel, the documentary, regular videos. I got some really wild video series that are coming for CDM that are like, I want to tell you, but if I tell you, it'll ruin how funny it is and cool it is. But it's just awesome. We have a lot going on and lots to come, and I just got to trust the Lord's timing on this. You know, I wish I could be more productive. I wish I could have more hours during the day to do progress on this, and maybe one day the Lord will financially allow me to transition to this or whatever. I don't know, but I do think this is important, and I will give what I can to push the truth as far as possible, and I pray that if it's the Lord's will, he sees it successful in the world. And for all it's worth, guys, Giant Tree says, also, if we don't have our baby girl by Sunday, we're inducing at 9 p.m. that night Central Time. Hey, God bless you, my friend. Congratulations. Wow. New baby coming in. We're going to make the world better for your new baby. The future of your baby. Your baby will grow up in a wonderful place. And it'll be like, oh, you just missed it. It's like Paul said, we will be the strong men during bad times who bring back the good times. Let it be in the Lord's name, and let the good times roll, and let them go on forever and ever in Jesus' holy name. Destination Kingdom, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight for level 69 of the Main Character Podcast, made possible by the Cult of Con. That's you guys. I am Con Man, and thank you for being here, guys. You are awesome. It's always good to talk about all this stuff. I'm excited for what the future holds. Thank you guys for being here, and we will see you all on Sunday for Sunday service. All right, y'all. Take it easy, guys. Have a great night. God bless you all in Jesus' name.
It's a scam, it's a plan, it's a con, and I'm your man. You know I tell it like it is. I hold the secrets in my hands. Reflection and introspection is my profession. I'm recklessly disrespecting what you expect and investing in my discretion, teaching the lessons, impressions to keep you guessing what I do next, man.
Now when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison. He will go forth to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the final battle, an army whose number is as the sand of the sea.
It's amazing the affirmations that come my way when I fake it until I make it. The truth is waiting, complacent organizations. They say I'm racist, they hate and they making payments on my vacation. I'm the man, I'm the king, I'm rejecting what you think. Rearranging your mentality, got some Kool-Aid you can drink. It's a scam, it's a plan, it's a con, and I'm your man. You know I tell it like it is. I hold the secrets in my hands. Reflection and introspection is my profession. I'm recklessly